business backing away, Christine, finally recognizing that they have to put their money where their mouths and their views are on what their customers feel too.
This is the final good and true breakup, I think, of business with its business president, right? And now some of these companies with pretty sharp words are backing away from Republican lawmakers, in particular Blue Cross Blue Shield in its statement saying that they will suspend contributions to those lawmakers who voted to, quote, undermine our democracy. So one after another, companies are coming out with their statements for how they're going to handle this. And I can tell you, companies you haven't heard from yet, their executive teams are huddled together trying to decide what is the appropriate response for these companies, not only for their customers, but their employees who are very, very concerned about the kind of America that their companies are doing business in at the moment.
There is overwhelming evidence that George W. Bush did not win this election, either by national popular vote or the Florida popular vote. As members of Congress charged with defending the constitutional principles of this country, it is our duty to challenge this vote. The Vice President, in an incredibly statesmanlike effort to take the high road, has ruled against our challenge. So George W. Bush has managed to ascend to our nation's highest office, but he should be on notice that without justice, there can be no peace. And we will ensure that there is no peace in this Congress until he truly reaches across party lines and correct these wrongs. He must reach across party lines, racial lines, and philosophical lines. We see what's going on. There will simply be no peace until these problems can be corrected.
What you saw today on the floor of the House was African Americans, the sons and daughters of slaves, who took their destiny into their own hands despite the fact there were those who again told us to get over it and tried to shame us and say we would be divisive. And despite the fact that leadership of our own party suggested that perhaps we should not do this. And while we are very smart elected officials and politicians who work in cooperation with our party and our leadership, there comes a time when you have to take your own destiny into your own hands, no matter what is being said by whom. And so today we took to the floor to object, even though we understood what the rules say. We needed to make a point to our constituents and to the people of America that we're not going to go along to get along. We needed to make a point that the day of doing business as usual is over, that we're elected by our constituents and we have strong support. As a matter of fact, when you look at the Democratic Party, we come from districts where we stand to come back here over and over again, more than any other members of the House. And so we can use our strength and our support to speak up for what is right. And that's what we did today. Let me just say that we will use this model continuously and continually as we fight through the next 4 years.
For most of us in the Senate and the House, we have spent our lives fighting for things we believe in, always fighting to make our nation better. We have fought for social justice. We have fought for economic justice. We have fought for environmental justice. We have fought for criminal justice. Now we must add a new fight, the fight for electoral justice. Every citizen of this country who is registered to vote should be guaranteed that their vote matters, that their vote is counted, and that in the voting booth in their community, their vote has as much weight as that of any senator, any congressperson, any president, any cabinet member, or any CEO of any Fortune 500 corporation. I am sure that every one of my colleagues, Democrat, Republican, and Independent, agrees with that statement. That statement that in the voting booth, we are all equal.
I thank the distinguished gentleman from Michigan for yielding. I agree with John Kerry. I think George W. Bush won Ohio. But I agree with millions of American citizens that no American should have to wait 4 hours to cast a vote. I agree with tens of millions of Americans who are very worried that when they cast the ballot on an electronic voting machine, that there is no paper trail to record that vote in the event of a recount. What today is about is to demand that the federal government begin to move forward to guarantee that every voter in America feels secure and confident that all of the votes cast in this country are counted accurately and that all of our voters are treated with respect and dignity. That is what democracy is about, and that is what we are fighting for.
Expired.
The members of Congress who have brought this challenge are speaking up for their aggrieved constituents, many of whom may have been disenfranchised in this process. This is their only opportunity to have this debate while the country is listening, and it is appropriate to do so. If there were other venues of this caliber, we would have taken that opportunity. But this is the opportunity. We have a responsibility to take advantage of it. The right to vote is the foundation of our democracy. A discussion of that foundation, again, should not be considered frivolous.
Some U.S. Republican lawmakers face growing blowback on Monday from several of the country's biggest companies, like Amazon, Comcast, AT&T, and American Express. They've all threatened to pull campaign donations for Republicans who voted last week to challenge the results of the presidential election. Few companies have gone as far as chemical giant Dow, which announced it would withhold funds for select Republican lawmakers' entire terms in office, up to 6 years for those in the Senate. GE's suspension will last through 2022 and will then consider requests for support on a, quote, case-by-case basis. It's unclear what will be the lasting impact of the company's decisions, as fundraising is in a post-election lull, giving corporations time to figure out their approach.